It's the best kind of stress you could ever imagine. It's a smoothie where the ingredients are, first of all, you have to care, right? You have to love people. If you're, you're good with people, it's because you love people.
Sure.
You want to help.
Sure.
You like being super connected. You like solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
You like listening, right? So if you have those skill sets, that very quickly pivots into, well, what can I do with this?
Right.
And then at around my age, I'll be 48 in November. So I'd say starting around 38 to 40 is when I first started realizing I want to go big. I want to do something. I want to run my own show, right? And I want to be with good people, wolves, real litigators, trial attorneys. I like trial. The experience I had early on in my career with trials, jury trials, I very much like that. I like being in a courtroom, not because it's super showboaty like you see on TV and you can't handle it.
Right.
No, it's that I just as much enjoy talking to the court officer before the judge takes the bench about, the next case, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure.
Or just New York people, New York problems, right? And, we're a full, very expansive sort of full service litigation firm, right? A lot of it's commercial litigation, a lot of which falls into real estate litigation, as you know. But as you mentioned at the outset, a lot of my clients are more expansive with creative apparel brands, luxury stuff, licensing IP stuff. And we just got, so two of the new partners at the firm, Farber Balsam and Papain, their personal injury and wrongful death litigators. So we just started building that practice. We have under 50 cases, but it's doing well, it's growing. Why is it growing? Sure, I'll take the compliment. I appreciate you saying that. We're good litigators, right? We're top-notch guys. But also, these guys are just different versions of myself. They too believe in the case. They love people.
Right.
They want to solve problems. Obviously, you get paid to solve problems and they opt them away, right? But the long game is that we're building relationships with you, with anybody you meet. It's a potential relationship. And by the way, that doesn't mean, and you know this from BNI, first game, right?
Sure.
The fruits of that relationship don't always come out to be, I win. The fruits of the relationship could be, maybe I help you for 25 years.
Welcome again, everybody, to the Zelnik Exchange. I'm your host, Cory Zelnik. Today, we're going to speak with Michael Farber, a lead and top-notch litigator here in New York City. Michael is a dear friend of mine. We met several years ago through a networking group, and I'm no longer part of that networking group, but we have remained fast friends and our relationship continues to grow. And today we're going to speak with Michael and learn about his journey from the kid from Queens, or another kid from Queens, up to being a top-notch litigator here in New York. So a quick read on his bio. Michael S. Farber is a founding partner of Farber Balsam Papain Ferrari LLP, a boutique law firm based in Midtown Manhattan. With a career spanning over 2 decades, Michael has established himself as a formidable litigator, particularly adept in jury selection and conducting high-stakes trials across both federal and state courts. His extensive experience encompasses complex commercial litigation, real estate disputes, and a profound understanding of the intricate dynamics of the intersection of art and commerce. That said, Michael also goes wide and vast in terms of his cultural background. He represents rappers and designer brands, and we're going to talk about a whole lot of things today. So, Michael Farber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cory. Very happy to be here. Very excited.
No, I'm excited too, because I know we've talked about this for a while, and we're such good friends, and we just wanted to get together and do this in a little bit more of a formal setting, but keep it informal just the same. So I did skip this in the bio, and I don't want to forget this. Michael lives up in Westchester County with his lovely wife Kate and his daughter Hunter and his son Griffith, and they're a great family. And again, we know each other well, and I'm so happy to be a part of all of this with you. So tell me.
Likewise.
Yeah. So
this is funny. This is the third only context in which I've seen you. Usually we're getting coffee,
right?
Or we're at the Nick game, or
okay.
we're on texting, and now this is the third.
That's right. But our relationship started as a box on a screen because I joined BNI, and it was during COVID, and it was Zoom only. So you were a box, and I was a box to you.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, our relationship has evolved.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes. So start me off, kid from Bayside, Queens. I'm familiar with the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know you are. Bayside, Queens. I was born in the Bronx. My parents moved us out to Bayside. I have an older sister. We grew up in Windsor Park, first floor apartment, corner apartment. I grew up in like a split off bedroom that was supposed to be a one bedroom. They gave my sister half of it. They gave me the other half. Grew up in Windsor Park, Bell Boulevard.
That's like Bell and 73rd, right?
Correct, 75th Avenue, but 73rd is the main strip.
Right, and
Springfield, Bell.
I'm a Bay Terrace guy because my dad was in Bay Terrace,
mm-hmm.
so I was down further from you.
Mm-hmm.
But in that development, that retail development there,
mm-hmm.
about now 25 or so years ago, I put a CVS pharmacy in that center.
No way.
That's right. You probably shopped there.
I was going to say,
you probably shopped there.
It used to be Lampston's, I think.
Yeah, prior to
Island Trading, and then I think maybe that's CVS.
That's right.
Wow, throwback.
There you go.
That's wild.
There you go.
So raised there, childhood there, but then in high school, I went back to the Bronx. All my friends went to Cardozo. That's where I was zoned to go.
Right.
But my dad is a Bronx boy, and my mother and father, when it came time to take the specialized high school test, my father and mother were like, listen, just take this test. If you get into Bronx Science, go for a year. If you don't like it, go to Cardozo, see you later, friends.
Okay.
And I'll never forget in junior high school, I was 74. I wrote in the yearbook to all my friends leaving junior high, I'm going to go to school with the nerds for a year, and I'll see you in 2 years at Dozo.
And that's great. And just for a little context for some of the people that are listening, in New York City, they have the 3 specialized schools that you take the test for: Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech, and Stuyvesant.
Correct. Yep.
So my little ditty on that is that I graded into Stuyvesant, but they only took a certain amount of people from certain areas of the city, and so I did not get it. I did not wind up going to Stuyvesant, and I've been dumbed down ever since.
You did fine. You're doing all right. But that changed my life. That was pivotal. So I think I could have turned out great. I guess in Bayside too.
Sure.
Good bunch of Queens boys, as you know. Still friends with some of the kids from Queens. But Bronx Science was an explosive change for me. Getting to just see all walks of life, all socioeconomic. It's a little different now on the breakdown of who actually goes to science, because a lot of parents now are spending tens of, hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars to get their kids into this school.
Really?
From 4 or 5 years old, they're on these pre-calc math. It's nuts. They have the whole this Russian math program now.
Yeah.
It's all to, your kid is born and you're like, they're going to one of these schools. It wasn't like that for us. So there was a lot of kids from a lot of different socioeconomic backgrounds, all 5 boroughs, all walks of life, all ethnicities, big melting pot, eyes wide open from Bayside.
Sure. Oh, sure.
And so that's to this day, when people ask me what changed, when did things, that it was Bronx Science.
Right.
And the friends I made there and the connections, and that kind of shaped who I am today, even being a litigator. Those skills started to shape in high school, believe it or not.
Right. That's about, it's really a little bit more of a formal way of being from the streets.
Sure.
Right? A formalized way of that.
And we, by the way, as you know, kid in the 90s, growing up in the 5 boroughs, we were very much in the street.
Yes.
Getting into trouble, anybody who's gone to high school knows, you want to get into some trouble, maybe cut some classes, but being able to cut class and go to the MoMA or the Guggenheim or go to Soho or the Seaport, and that's your day off. You're not sitting in the basement playing video games, huffing paint. You're out and you're amidst this milieu, this crazy cultural, it's just so intoxicating, and that's when I fell in love with New York City.
And it's funny you say it that way, because today, if our kids ever skip school, we'd love to hear that they went to the MoMA or somewhere.
Right. But you're just going to sit here.
It's 3 kids in the basement, like you said. Yeah. Bronx Science, you stay in state to go to school, right? You stay in state to go to law school. You're just oozing New York.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So in hindsight, it's 2020, right? It looks like that, right? Diehard New Yorker, which I 1 billion% am. Mm-hmm. But the true circumstances were that despite going to Bronx Science, I didn't have great grades at Bronx Science. As you can imagine, this is a collection of kids who are hyper intelligent, hyper intellectual achievers. Right? They're all going to Ivy League, the safe schools, UMich type of, you know what I mean?
Right.
And at the time, SUNY Buffalo was not, it's like this great school now. It's like one of the Ivies upstate, like Binghamton, Buffalo. These are great schools now. When I went, it was okay, but the only reason I got in is because I went to Bronx Science. My grades weren't even fantastic. I had friends who were getting into some serious schools, a lot of Ivy League and Stanford and Duke, and a lot of kids that were going to the SUNYs were kind of like the outliers.
Well, right. So you have Bronx Science on the resume, so that's a good look. So he's average, above average at Bronx Science. We'll take him.
Yep.
Right.
You can get these grades at Bronx Science, but these grades at Bronx Science are really these grades elsewhere.
Exactly.
So
All right,
let's take a chance on him. And I had a good guidance counselor, Christopher Channon, if you're listening. He teaches chess now. I think he was my Afro-American Studies teacher. He believed in me. And the story goes, according to Mr. Channon, my real guidance counselor was not in his office, and the phone kept ringing, and it was Buffalo calling because they looked at my transcript, and they were like, something's up. Like, his grades should be better. He seems like he's a good writer. He seems like he's a bright kid, but something's going on.
Okay.
And this guy who was just the greatest teacher ever at Bronx Science, apparently he picked up the phone, and he went off, and he said, this kid's the best. Take a shot. So I went to Buffalo, and then a lot of New Yorkers from downstate, as you know, Buffalo, made some other great friends there, joined a fraternity there. And to this date, some of my closest friends, business contacts, mentors, one of my partners, Howie Balsam at the firm, he was in that fraternity.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I met Howie, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was my big brother in the fraternity, and I was terrified of him, actually, in Buffalo. He just seemed like a tough kid. He had that sluggo sort of look.
We're not here to talk about hazing today.
He never hazed me.
Okay.
He was the very menschy guy, and now he's my law partner, which is great. So the things are just going. Whoop,
there you go. That's great.
Yeah.
So law school now.
Law school, Brooklyn Law School.
Brooklyn Law. People speak very highly of Brooklyn Law.
Very good school, very strong alumni network. Attorneys will get very excited when they went to Brooklyn Law School, and so did you. They'll find out, and they'll do whatever they can for you. Even adversaries on a contentious litigation. Oh, you went to BLS? What year? This and that. You start shooting the breeze like that. But even Brooklyn Law was a little serendipitous. I dated a girl at SUNY Buffalo who was dead set going to be an environmental lawyer, and she was studying for the LSAT. We were seniors, and I was a psych major, and I had for the longest time wanted to get into forensic psychology. Silence of the Lambs. That was another eye-opening. That's going to be my career from being the FBI.
All right.
Got derailed as an undergrad, as you would imagine, and maybe the FBI is not for me. But I remember being in her house, in her bedroom, and she was studying for the LSAT, and I was looking at the logic games on the LSAT. And I said, let me take a look at those. And I took every question in the logic games section, and I answered every question rather. And I was so confident. I was like, these are so fun. What an exciting, I'm going to kick ass on the LSATs. Okay. And I looked at the answer key, and I got every single one wrong. And that blew me away. And I started looking at the explanations of why I got them wrong, and I became even more fascinated. Which is kind of, I guess this is psychology, but it's kind of how I wound up in law school and at Brooklyn Law itself, because I did well enough in the LSATs where a bunch of schools in New York City, Johns gave me money, New York Law School gave me money, but Brooklyn Law School was the one school that didn't offer me any money, scholarship.
Interesting.
That coupled with walking around the promenade in Brooklyn Heights, another New York classic, iconic place, right? I went there and again, intoxicated, fell in love. And I said, well, there's a reason this school is not offering me money. It must be better than the rest. I don't know if that's true or not. Doesn't matter at this point. But Brooklyn Law School. And then from there, even more crazy serendipitous things happened. The choices I made, the hobbies I had, the friends I had, and where I worked. And that all shaped kind of what you mentioned about it.
All right, so let's lean off, get out of law school for a moment, talk hobbies. I know you're a huge vintage guy, your vintage collection. You talk about selling, marketing, doing. I don't know if you ever got started. I know somebody who happens to be in the PR business who can help you one day. By the way, Michael's been a great friend to my daughter Bailey, so I love him for that as well. So talk about the vintage thing a little bit and how it plays into your whole life.
Sure. Yeah. I would say the vintage thing didn't start off as a vintage thing. I love apparel. I think that comes from my mother. My mother used to make her own clothes. She was a hippie in San Francisco. She grew up poor on 3rd Street, Ukrainian immigrants, downtown Manhattan. So I think she learned to sew and make her own clothing at an early age. But it was my mother, actually, when I was in high school. And you start caring about your appearance when you stop being like this goofy kid in braces, 12, 13, you discover girls, and you're in Bronx Sides where there's a lot of kids with, some style, and you're in New York City. And I'll never forget when my mother first took us to Lord & Taylor and showed me Ralph Lauren. And my mother was always the type of person, and you'll appreciate this, you have nice custom suits and things, with the way a pattern hits from the pocket square, like, it lines up with this pattern. And my mother would show me the inside of seams of dresses and the way shoes were threaded. And she would say, you see that? That's the difference between this piece, and that's why this one is this much money and this. But when she took me, actually it was Lord & Taylor and also Bloomie's on Lexi 59th.
Okay.
I actually wound up working at the United Jewish Appeal around the corner for a while. Doing telemarketing.
Okay.
And after every other Friday when we get our paychecks, we would go right to Bloomingdale's, Lexi 59, get Ralph Lauren. Yep. And it was really that discovery. When she hit me to Ralph Lauren, I got, and ask any kid who grew up in the five boroughs in the 90s around my contemporary, like some of us, it was impossible to not care about that stuff. It's just who you are. Any kid in the city, that's your identity, how you're dressed, your style, that shows what you know about culture. It shows the movies you like. It shows the music that you're into, right? That's kind of ways to signal. And we just cared very, very much since I'd say 91, 92, caring so much about, and not even like peacocking, ostentatious presentation of apparel, like, big bow tie and a pocket square. Like you see how I dress, it's pretty.
No, you want to have a nice conservative, sharp, tailored, not custom, but tailored look.
Absolutely correct. That's what it is. And it's because not just, I have to love apparel, it's, do you care? Do you care about your appearance? Because it's flattering to other people when you do.
Oh, it speaks volumes. And I had the good fortune to be friends with Joseph Abboud, the designer. And he always talks about being dressed. You don't have to be the best dressed person in the room, but when you walk in that room and you are well put together, people notice, and it speaks volumes about you as a person.
Totally agree.
And the person who doesn't even know you, when they come upon you, they know where you're at from the start. And then the conversation begins.
That's exactly gold. That's exactly the way you just said that. That's exactly what it is. You don't have to talk about it.
Right.
It's talking for you. Exactly. And then people understand, they go, I can relate to this person. He or she cares. Details matter. What you're saying to the world matters. I think I used to work with, thank God not working with him anymore, but sometimes smart guy, but he would come into the office, disheveled, just unkempt, looked like he didn't care. That sends signals to the culture of your people and your staff and the clients and your colleagues, and even on a Zoom call or a judge or it ripples, But anyway, so the apparel thing started there, and I think because I grew up just not wealthy, I have clothes from high school still. Right. I don't throw anything away.
Okay.
And back then we were wearing double XL Ralph Rugby's and, big Gerbeau 38 waist jeans. And I don't dress like that anymore.
Of course not.
But I still have the same affinity. And as you know, and Bailey knows, things come in cycles. And the stuff that was important and cool in the 90s.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of that stuff that's ain't never coming back.
Agreed. At least for us, right? I don't care. But even walking here from my office, I saw a girl with these giant jeans cut off at the ankle here, and these big Timberland boots. And I'm going, this could be 1994. Right now. And she's like this tall model. She's put together. She's got the Goyard bag. She's cashmere, little turtleneck, leather. So sharp, but 90s.
Right, and also because I get told this, I save a lot of stuff as well. Not nearly as much as you, but I have a lot of those things. And every now and again, I throw it on, sometimes just for laughs and whatever. I get reminded how old I am today, right? So like you see this young lady that you just saw on the street, she's probably 20 years your junior, right? So it also fits, right?
But I was into apparel from a different way. They call it streetwear now. Yes. But when I was in law school, I was DJing at a record store called Fat Beats. And I had turntables in my apartment in Brooklyn when I was at Brooklyn Law School. And I'm very much into rap culture, grew up in rap culture in the 90s, right? So my buddy Dan Goldberg, shouts to Dan Goldberg, he was a colleague of mine, a student at Brooklyn Law, and he was managing Fat Beats. And I DJ'd at his apartment for like a New Year's party. And he heard me like cutting up some records, and he said, you should come work at Fat Beats. I said, great. That side gig and interest and passion pursuing that type of thing, coupled with the history in apparel, I had always wanted to make t-shirts, hoodies, hats, skateboards, and sell them because I grew up, like we said, cutting school. Sometimes we would cut school and go to some of these boutiques like Union or Sur down in the West Village, and I would see all these cool t-shirt brands that were not like the Gap or Adidas or a mainstream. And in the city of millions of kids, you wanted to stand out. So these independent brands with these tongue-in-cheek graphics, they always spoke to me, even in the 90s. So I started making my own t-shirts in the basement of a sports store in Ridgewood, Queens, actually. During law school, I just was finding time to do this stuff.
Myrtle Avenue?
No,
or Fresh Pond Road.
Fresh Pond Road.
Little real estate twist for the conversation.
I wonder if it's still there, actually, but I just paid him some money, this guy, and he was screening jerseys basically for kids. And I had my graphics burned onto a screen, and I would screen my t-shirts and my hoodies there.
Were you still doing on that iron press?
Yes. It's a 4-head machine. You pull the screen down, you pull the squeegee down with the plastisol ink, you sweep it around, you put it in the heater, you pull them out. So all done by myself. And so that just got me more into apparel. Next thing you know, I'm selling more to more stores, and working at the record store, and I'm working at a record label, and just doing all this stuff, just steeped, like you said, in the streets, while trying to do well in law school. Not easy to do. And a lot of kids in law school, you thought Bronx Science was competitive, or even Buffalo. You get to law school, and it is ultra competitive. Everybody wants to be top 5% of the class, at worst 10% of the class. If you're top 25% of the class, you're kind of a schlep. That's how competitive it is, and it's very cutthroat. And I got there, and I just didn't care in that way. My father, he worked at Con Edison, drove a limousine at night. A lot of my friends and colleagues, their dads or moms were lawyers. They knew the game. They knew how to read and brief and synthesize and cut corners. I didn't. I just went in there, and it was all new to me.
And it's interesting. It's interesting because I think that your dad's focused on his work and his work ethic, and your mom and the detail you're talking to about making the clothes and the seam, not a seamstress, I guess maybe, but dress designer and all of that stuff. That focus seems to have resonated with you, and you just sort of brought it all. And so I'm listening to you now, and I know we've spoken offline as friends, but I'm listening now, and I'm really feeling how much of that focus, energy, and grind you took from your folks, the entrepreneurial spirit maybe of your mom and what she did. You had that, but you knew, I got to get law school. It wasn't just, you were not going to be happy to be able to say, I went to law school. You wanted it all. And we'll get to the part of the story where you have it all. And so keep going. I think this is great.
Yeah, I mean, self-doubt is a bitch.
Oh yeah.
And when you're in law school, I think I was on 25. I was a baby. And it's very easy to second guess yourself. And especially, like I said, I don't come from money, but the entrepreneurial thing was not just watching my parents or my mother's little creative so much, that may be in the DNA of the subconscious aspect of it. But I think it was also, again, going back to Bronx Science, I saw a taste of entrepreneurial wealth. Not extravagant wealth, like 20 bedrooms in the Hamptons,
but more than you had.
Way more than I had, but still good people, good parents, good upbringing, good values, but they were still struggling. They were still, or hustling rather. And people who had done well that I found were heroes of mine. My father, because he worked 2 jobs, he wasn't home a lot. So I didn't have this male role model where I was like, I'm going to be just like daddy. If anything, I went through a period in my teen years where I resented them. And I was like, why don't we have more? Why am I the first one to go to college? Like, you guys didn't go to college? Like, what's happening here? All my friends and their parents were just more well situated, But seeing that taste of the city in certain apartments and places, girls I dated or friends I had or places I got to go to during those city years as a teen, I remember that was embedded in my brain thinking, you're going to do something. You have to own something. You're going to hustle and you're going to work really hard anyway. My father always used to say, work now, play later. If you play now, you're going to work later until you're dead. And I remember thinking, I've done a lot of playing. So am I just going to work the rest of my life? I don't want to do that. So let me put in the time now and hustle. But going back to the self-doubt thing, every other student at Brooklyn Law was like, what are you doing? you're managing a rapper at this, you're working at this label, you're cutting records and, making t-shirts. Like,
Right.
be a lawyer. Go be a lawyer. You can't do both. You could, but you're not going to do both well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was a pivotal moment for me, because that forced a moment of self-reflection going, no, I'm going to ignore your advice.
Right.
This is stuff I care about. You know how they tell writers or screenwriters or directors, write what you know?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I knew. This is what I cared about. I said, there's a reason you're working at Fappies. There's a reason.
You love
Exactly.
it, right?
So this is what drove you here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to abandon it so I can work in tax law or something. That's not interesting.
Sure.
No offense to,
Yeah, right.
You have to love, and I think I developed those loves just growing up here and coming from my parents, seeing that end of things, then seeing another way of, it could be this way if you just believe in yourself.
Right.
And now we talked about Gary Vee and things.
Yeah.
There's so many voices on the internet now telling us how great we can be and how confident we should be, but back then we didn't have that.
Right.
If you didn't have a mentor like yourself, right?
You're right. Now we go from that extreme of no voices to too many today, and you have to manage the too many, right? You have to just say,
turn it off. Yep.
Wait a second,
Yep.
right? There's Gary Vee, he's good. This one's a lunatic, I gotta stop that, and what's the reality of it all?
Mm-hmm.
Make an interesting dynamic, right?
100%.
The swing
Yep.
is interesting.
Which I love. I love being overwhelmed by the excess of information, by the way, because I feel like it's evolution. It helps make us sharper.
Sure.
A lot of my friends go, and I've done this too, I'm off. I'm going off Instagram for a month. I can't do this.
Right.
It's so much negative stuff and politics and BS and fitness and this scam and that marketing, and everyone's pitching and selling and everyone's making content and everyone's a comedian now and everyone's a food critic and everyone's an influencer. It gets so overwhelming.
Everyone does a podcast.
But that's the thing, right?
Right.
We all made fun of the fact that we all wanted one, but then there were too many, so nobody did anything. But it's the outline. What did we talk about before we started recording? You're waiting cricket, right? There's things in the hopper that may come from you just doing something. Like, I don't care. There could be 8 million. It's like making a movie or writing a book.
Right.
It's so easy to have a good story and say, I want to be a good storyteller with this one story. I want to bring this to the world. Everybody wants to make a movie. Everybody, but that's what they said to everybody, right? All the best success stories are, I got rejected from this many studios. I got rejected from this many publishing houses.
Mm-hmm.
I get rejected from this many women, but then I wind up marrying a great one,
Of course.
So that's how it happens. You have to sift through it, but it makes us better, I think.
Absolutely. All right. They finally gave you a law degree. What'd you do next?
Oh boy. Right out of law school. So I was working, because of my affinity for hip hop in New York City, like rap culture, I was working at a label called Subverse Records, which is now defunct.
And if you don't mind, a little shout out, because I don't know the exact crossover to our good friend Jason Turner, because you guys come together in this small world of small worlds.
Yeah.
Then you and Jason Turner know each other through the music, the club business, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. There's definitely an overlap in the Venn diagram. Shouts to Jason Turner. Shouts to Josh Stevens, who introduced me to Jason.
There you go.
Serendipitously, not even through you. I think Jason worked at Raucous. I worked at a label called Subverse Records, and that was one of my first real mentors, this guy, Pete Lupoff.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Peter Lupoff. Great guy. I think he manages like a family portfolio now, but he was in iBanking, and he became obsessed with rap and rap culture, and he opened up an independent label that was in Tribeca, and I was playing with a record once on a weekend in law school, and I looked at the back of the record. It was an MF Doom record called Doomsday, and I see on the back of the record, it was a repress of, it was a reissue of a classic record, iconic record. And I said, well, who put this out? And I see Subverse Records, so-and-so, Light Street, somewhere in Tribeca.
Okay.
And I think I sent the email, and I said, I want to work there this summer. Long story short, I biked over the Brooklyn Bridge to go to Tribeca, talked to Pete Lupoff. We hit it off, best friends like us.
Right.
Same interest, same affinity. I said, look, I'm in law school, but I really want to get into entertainment law.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I went to law school is because I had always told myself, I'm going to be De La Soul's lawyer.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do. That's my goal. I loved De La Soul growing up, and that was my, and thank God I'm not an entertainment law lawyer right now, because I did put my toe in that water when I worked at this label, and I learned more about the business that Jason was in as well.
Sure.
A lot of promoters, a lot of knucklehead activity, guys showing up late for meetings, but it was fun. And at working at that label though, I met Peter Lupoff, like I said, and he helped guide me with the confidence. And I'd say that was the best job I had during law school, as far as like a cool, sexy, fun thing to do. But I also worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Organized Crime and Narcotics Bureau at Eastern District in Brooklyn. Another great mentor, Steve Breslow. He guided me as well. He helped make me more confident about my writing and oral presentation skills, people skills, things like that. So as you know, you have a series of mentors that some you look and you seek them out, others land in your lap, serendipitously. Yeah. And so between the record label, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and just a couple things that I did in law school, I wound up, yes, they gave me a law degree. And then took the bar. But even as I was waiting for my bar exam results, I was working in a club and a steakhouse. And
it's obvious you have that energy. Nothing was going to stop you. Nothing was going to keep you sitting still ever.
Yeah, no. And to this day, guys like you are my respected mentors. But even there's a guy, Mel Ginsberg, on my floor.
Okay.
In our office suite, and young at heart, plays a ton of golf, plays a ton of racquetball. I think he's 78. And he told me, he's like, Mike, why would I retire? I just had my best year last year. He was on the train in the office every day through COVID. He does well, this guy. He doesn't need to come in and crush it like that. And as a litigator, it can be stressful. Sure. But it's nice to see a guy like that at his age. Yeah. He's not crazy like me. Like you and I, we're like up and out of your fitness. We get coffee, we talk, he's slow-mo, takes it easy, everything rolls off his back. But he's attained a level of experience where it's so graceful to see him just be stoic about it, and he's still working.
And it's great. And in that generation, because I had it with my stepfather, who's passed away many years at this point, but their mentality is, if they stop, they die. Like literally they believe that.
I believe it.
And when my stepfather, again, he passed away about 15 years ago, but he was sitting in my office, okay, at 80 years old, putting out resumes and got hired. He was a mechanical electrical engineer and got hired by the city.
Wow.
At 80 years old.
Wow.
And because that was, if I don't do this, I'm going to sit in the house.
In his DNA.
Right. And it's over. So.
And you see those people, right? You go to Florida,
right.
You meet people that are of some means and they're relaxed and they sold their company or whatever it is. If they don't stay active, it starts to go.
Yeah.
Everything starts to go. And I can see even from my father, love him to death. But he had it tough. My dad was a medic in Vietnam. As I told you, he worked 2 jobs,
right.
Family issues growing up. So I think now he's very much of the mind, I've paid my dues.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't stay very active.
Okay.
Goes to the VA, lives on a golf course, doesn't play golf.
Okay.
Appreciates fishing, doesn't fish, and doesn't really play sport. So I see him and I'm always going, Dad, you gotta up and at him. You know what I mean? Because the minute you stop, that's when you start to just.
Yeah. Not only is your body atrophy, but your mind atrophies.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So not good. We're not going to be like that.
Right? We keep going. It's like Jessica knows. She knows I'm never retiring. There's no reason.
I think. Yeah, no, that's what it is. My wife said the same thing.
Yeah.
I've always told her, and I don't know, like maybe Jesse and Kate are like, at some point I'm gonna, I really just want to sit on the beach and read. Kudos, I get it. I respect that. But I get nervous when I think about it. It's just because I don't come for much, right?
Right.
The minute I stop, it's all gonna fall apart.
Exactly.
I want to go in on the weekends. Like you get up at 4:30.
Yeah.
You know what it's like to get up. When you own something, you care more.
Of course.
And this is kind of full circle about where you asked about how I got here is because I've worked a bunch of jobs. I didn't always have my own law firm.
Right.
I worked a bunch of jobs for a bunch of people. Some of them were great mentors. I respected them. But because I didn't own it, that's when you start getting up in the morning sometimes and going, I'm making this guy richer.
Yeah.
He takes care of me.
Mm-hmm.
Is this it?
Right.
And that's when you start to think like, oh shit, I need to do something either big or take a risk and go out and try to make it work.
Well, that's it. We follow and listen to the same type of people. It's about getting out of your comfort zone, and that's the only way you're going to get to the next level and things like that. And right, so we can get past. We'll go right past all the various law firms you may have worked along the way, because, like you say, important. You learn things, but it was what was next and where I am and where I'm going. And so where you're at today, you're a lead partner in a very, very strong firm You've brought on some new partners of late, and you guys are elevating your game. You're out there. You do the real estate stuff. You do the real estate litigation. You don't have to talk about a sample case. That's not what this discussion is about. But you're out there doing all this stuff. You're seeing all of these things, and so now you're a lead partner running a business. What's the world looking like these days for you?
It's the best kind of stress you could ever imagine. It's a smoothie where the ingredients are, first of all, you have to care, right? You have to love people. If you're, you're good with people, it's because you love people.
Sure.
You want to help.
Sure.
You like being a super connector. You like solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
You like listening, right?
Good.
So if you have those skill sets, that very quickly pivots into, well, what can I do with this?
Right.
And then at around my age, I'll be 48 in November. So I'd say starting around 38 to 40 is when I first started realizing I want to go big. I want to do something. I want to run my own show,
Right.
And I want to be with good people. Wolves, though.
Mm-hmm.
Real litigators, trial attorneys. I like trial. The experience I had early on in my career with trials, jury trials, I very much like that. I like being in a courtroom, not because it's super showboaty like you see on TV and you can't handle it.
Right.
No, it's that I just as much enjoy talking to the court officer before the judge takes the bench
Sure.
about, the next, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure.
Or just New York people, New York problems, right? And, we're a full, very expansive sort of full service litigation firm, right? A lot of it's commercial litigation, a lot of which falls into real estate litigation,
Right.
as you know. But as you mentioned at the outset, a lot of my clients are more expansive with creative apparel brands, luxury stuff, licensing IP stuff. And we just got, so two of the new partners at the firm, Farber Balsam and Papain, they're personal injury and wrongful death litigators. So we just started building that practice. We have under 50 cases, but it's doing well, it's growing. Why is it growing? Sure, I'll take the compliment. I appreciate you saying that. We're good litigators, right?
Right.
We're top-notch guys. But also, these guys are just different versions of myself. They too believe in the case. They love people.
Right.
They want to solve problems. Obviously, you want to get paid to solve
course,
problems
of
in
course.
the optimal way, right?
Right.
But the long game is that we're building relationships.
Right.
With you, with anybody you meet. It's a potential relationship. And by the way, that doesn't mean, and you know this from BNI, Players Game, right?
Sure.
The fruits of that relationship don't always come out to be, I win. The fruits of the relationship could be, maybe I help you for 25 years.
Well, I think the fruits of the relationship is the relationship.
There you go.
Right?
That's right. It's based on what can we do for each other?
Right.
Why are we here? Right?
Exactly.
You enrich me somehow.
Mm-hmm.
You bring value to my life.
Right.
And if you could try to be that to everybody you come in contact with, at some point, the
Absolutely.
reputation takes care of itself. It's on autopilot and people call.
The trees grow and the branches expand and they take you here, there, and everywhere. And if you just always remain true to your core, things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
You can't plan it. It happens or it doesn't happen,
Right.
but it's irrelevant. You've done everything
Yeah.
that you want to do in your heart and mind. Something happens, it will be there.
Yeah.
They'll know to call on that day, and they'll also know you'll answer.
Yeah.
And that's important. It's a great quality of yours. I've seen it in several different instances, and I'm not playing favorites because you're my friend, but I've seen it in a lot of instances. And you stay true to that, you guys are going to continue to grow and blow up. And in speaking about your other partners, it sounds like, I only met Howie one time, but if you guys are doing this in the manner that you're doing it with the right mindset, you don't seem, at least the way you describe it, you're not crossing over internally, and so that you guys can be on the same long-term path of growth because you have that mentality.
Long-term path is key, by the way.
Of course.
Long game. We talk about this in the
all the time. We talk about it all the time.
I'm all about the long game.
Right.
If today it sucks, or we're not crushing it, or we lose a case,
Right.
or I lost a motion, or a client called me and considered hiring me but didn't, it's okay.
Yeah.
You have to force the stoicism, because otherwise I'll stay up all night and won't get any sleep.
Well, you force the stoicism, and then what you do is, and I try to do this often, is to look at it, step back, right? It's game over. We lost the case. Game over. No appeals. No, game over. Right? You step back and say, "What did we do wrong?"
There you go.
and try to figure it out so you don't do it again.
Yep.
Right? That's all you can do.
Everything that's bad has that silver lining.
Right.
A lot of times we'll face a problem like that and I go, look at the color and shape of this problem.
Right.
It sucks, it's terrible. We have to deal with it. Eventually we'll move beyond it. But look at what happened.
Right.
Because this happened, this other thing didn't.
That's right.
Or it could have been worse, or whatever. And the silver lining and that positive thing, we've talked about that a ton as well.
Right.
It carries the day, and that's contagious, by the way. That's one of the reasons we get along.
Right.
You exude and radiate certain things that I know it's not BS. I know you believe in, and I know you live them. And so I see that, and that resonates with me.
Sure.
And I go, I want to be around this person.
Right. Exactly.
And that, spreads from there. It's a contagion.
That's great. No, that's great. And you've come, we sit here and we spend, a half hour, 40 minutes having a conversation, but it's a journey. And I think that where we come together again, mindset wise, about, long game and, marathons versus sprints and things like that. I just want to tell you, I hold you in such high regard as a friend, but in terms of your business acumen, your business being the law, I think that it's really just the beginning. And I want to thank you for spending time with me, because I know we could sit here for hours and hours. It's a great story, and I think it's a story that allows us to have a part 2 down the road, and I look forward to that.
Same.
And all my best to Kate and the kids, and to you, and
Thank you.
Mr. Michael Farber. Thank you so much for spending time with me.
Cory Zelnik, best.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Love you, brother.